If you need a laugh, you need to just get it out now.
Fine. That's you. You're the one that gets all giggling.
Okay. You can't laugh at me when I'm saying my stuff. Okay. Put your nose.
I need to drink coffee too. I'll just hold those.
Do you think you're a talk show host? You have to speak clearly, but not mumble.
I give presentations and teach Sunday school classes.
Stop. Hey everybody, welcome to Kulturecity Life. My name is Misty Gillespie, and today I have a co-host with me. My husband, Philip, is here. And we are starting a new series of questions and answers from our Kulturecity family to parents of children with autism. Throughout this series, we are going to meet lots of different kinds of parents. We're going to meet married couples like my husband and myself. We're going to be interviewing single moms and just different parents throughout the Kulturecity community. All of these questions came from our Kulturecity Facebook, and we will continue to use the questions that we've gotten, but if you would like to submit a question, feel free to go on to our Facebook page, Kulturecity, and you can submit a question there. I do want to say first off that we are not professionals. We are not suggesting that you implement any of the advice we give. We are just sharing our experience as parents. Are you ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay. Sarah Spardella says, her question is, am I the only family with 2 autistic children?
No, you're not. We have a 15, about to be 16-year-old son that is on the Asperger's scale, and we have a 6-year-old that is autistic. So we know your challenges, and we know it's can get very challenging at times.
And with our 2, they're definitely very different. So just because we had been through the experience with Isaac, starting out with Eli was like starting all over again because they were so different. Nothing happened on the same schedule as it did with Isaac. Our challenges with Eli were a lot different. So you are not alone. Okay.
I think the big key to that is that you treat them like you would any other set of brothers and sisters. Is you have to treat them as individuals, and don't loop them into both of them has autism, so therefore I can treat them the same way. You have to find what makes both of them tick in their own way and go with it from there.
That's very good. Okay, our next question is from, let's see, Jessica Dingle. And Jessica wants to know, how do I potty train my child? This is a tough one, Jessica, because I think, of course, every child is going to be different, just like Philip said. They're individuals, so the time frame is going to look very different. We tried a lot of different methods and are still working with our 6-year-old. For Isaac, I feel like it came a little easier once he was kind of verbal and able to understand. He didn't like messes, so it was easier to potty train him. With Eli, we have tried multiple times with multiple different methods, and just within the past probably 6 months did it start to kind of click. The method that we're using right now is the habit training method that I read about in a book called The Potty Journey, and that's definitely something that we can go into a little bit more in another video. Maybe I can review that book with you guys. Again, it may not work with every child, but for us that was the one method that kind of clicked. Just getting him into that routine schedule of going at certain times during the day, that worked for him because he was able to anticipate when we would go. Because even now, after 6 months, he still does not go independently. We say, okay, time for the potty, and he goes. So just don't give up, keep trying, and remember that every child is different, and it's not going to happen on the same time frame as, you know, maybe your next door neighbor. don't be discouraged. I mean, there are children who are in their teens who are still learning to potty train, and maybe that's your journey and maybe that's not. But never give up, because that is a life skill that is going to be important for their independence. And so I always advocate to continue to try for that goal.
And one thing to add is that the frustration level can get very high when you're trying to potty train a child with autism. Is I think at times you have to take a break from it, where if you're taking them every 15 minutes and you feel yourself getting frustrated with the situation, you need to be able to take a break, because if you get frustrated, it's not going to help you with your child trying to get them potty trained.
And like Philip said, I mean, you being upset is only going to cause him to get upset or her to get upset, and so that's never good. You want to always make sure that you're in a calm state of mind and a calm environment, because you don't want them to relate potty training with something that's stressful. The next question is from Kayleen Souza, and Kayleen asks, how do you maintain a healthy marriage?
The trick to that is you have to find some alone time. If it's you dropping your kids off at school and you meeting your husband for breakfast or coffee, meeting them at work for lunch, if you have people that can watch your child for you while you're gone that you trust, then do a date night, because you have to get to the point where you don't see the other person as the mother of your child. You need to see them as the person that you fell in love with. And the way you do that is you rekindle that by going out with one another and spending time alone. And it might not be going out anywhere. It might be going and walking up and down the street together. But you have to find that time alone to allow you to reconnect. And when you get alone, and I know this sounds strange, don't talk about your children. Talk about each other. Talk about each other's day, the interests, something outside of that, so that you're not just focused on autism all the time, because it's going to make you mentally tired.
So just like Philip was saying, it is important to connect in a way that doesn't revolve around your children when you do have a long time, but you also have to be able to communicate openly about what's going on with your children, because I know for Philip, there were times that he would get home from work and I would be really frustrated, or I would be struggling with something that was going on with one of the boys, and he would walk into this and not really understand why I was reacting to him the way that I was. And a lot of times all it would take was for me to just kind of stop and say, look, here's what I'm dealing with today. I'm going to be hard to deal with because this has been a stressful day. I need you to let me leave. Let me go to Target. Let me go downstairs and just chill out for a little bit. And, he understood that and would kind of step in and give me that downtime.
And this is just advice for the guys, is that if your wife is staying at home with your child that has autism, that this is not your normal situation. They're up and they're following the child around. They're making sure the child's okay all the time. So, understand that and do something nice. Buy some flowers, buy some candy, buy her favorite coffee and bring it home. You still got to date her. No matter how long you get married, no matter what your children's situation is, you still have to date your woman. And if you don't do that, it's going to be difficult. So, man, step up.
And I think, too, what's been really important for Philip and I is to keep our sense of humor. This life and this journey is not the norm. And so, there are things that he and I only understand about our daily life. And so there's a lot of times that we can just kind of sit down at the end of the day and find those little bits of humor. But we have one more question. Kayleen Souza, the same lady who asked us the marriage question, asks, where do you find the patience to combat judging people in public? Again, I think this is going to be one of those questions that have very different answers. For me, this has just been something that I've had to grow in over the years. at first with Isaac when he was little and we would get those stares, I mean, I would be embarrassed. I would be heartbroken, upset, and a lot of times I would just leave in a ball of tears. I mean, a heap, a mess. I would just sit in my car and cry, just because it was so hard to feel like, I was being judged, because with autism, there's no way you can look at a child and just know. And so many times when we were in public and he would have a meltdown, it was, well, you just have a bad kid. I felt judged as a parent. I felt like my baby was being judged, and it was hard. You're going to get judged, and not just occasionally, but sometimes daily. I mean, especially if you're a parent who finds it very important to make sure your child is out in the community, that they're going grocery shopping with you, that you're visiting the zoo, the library, which are all things I think are amazing. I mean, that's what we're fighting for, is for our children to be accepted within our community, to have a community that embraces them and wants to learn more. But with that, I have to also understand that I'm going to face some judgment, and I'm going to face some, judgment from people that sometimes it's very innocent, and sometimes there's just some jerky people out there who will take any opportunity to make someone else feel bad. For the past few years, I've tried to take those opportunities as a time to offer some education. And I experienced that not long ago at an IHOP. They had pancakes for like a couple of pennies, and so I wanted my 14-cent pancakes too. And so it was during the summer. I loaded up my two big kids, I loaded up Eli, and we went to go have pancakes that morning. Again, restaurants are kind of, you just never know. On this one particular day, we were sitting in a booth, and I thought Eli was being pretty good. I mean, he was sitting there playing with his iPad. One of his stems is to kind of kick his foot, and so he was kind of kicking his foot. Honestly, I didn't think very much about it. I was just so happy he was sitting there and was content. All of a sudden, the man behind us turned around to me and said, "I wish you would learn how to get control of your child and make him quit kicking the back of my seat." And so, I sat there for a minute and I said, "I apologize. I didn't realize that he was disturbing you. I'll do what I can to make sure I can move him so that he doesn't do that anymore." He turned back around and said, "You need to learn how to discipline your child." And he was a middle-aged man sitting with his family. I could tell his family was embarrassed. But at that point, this emotion just came over me, and I was, my heart was racing fast, and I wanted to cry, and I was so upset that he would take this moment from me, because we were having a good day. We were there, we were eating our pancakes, and it was a good day. And so I think I was mostly upset that he had kind of robbed that joy from me. And so I turned around, and I turned Eli around to face him, and I said, "This is Eli, and he has autism. Do you know what that is?" And he looked at me and he said, "I don't care." And he turned back around. And so I thought, okay, well, I can either ignore him or I can continue to educate him, because he can't stop me from speaking. And so I continued to tell him what autism was. I told him about Eli and the things that he struggles with. And then when I was done, I turned around and we finished our pancakes. And it was funny the way things work out. You know, by the end of my speech, of course I'm in tears because I'm emotional anyway, but they had gotten up and left before us. As we were walking out of the restaurant, it just so happened that this gentleman came out of the bathroom behind me, and his wife, who was waiting for him to get done, was also behind me. And as we reached the door, his wife said, you need to hold the door open for this family. And he did, and he held the door open for us. He never apologized, and he never said anything to me, but I knew that was kind of his wife's way of saying, I'm sorry, I'm embarrassed. I didn't say anything to him, but I knew he heard me that day. And what he chose to do with that information I gave him is up to him. But what was most important to me was that the next time that he came across a child who was, you know, maybe showing some behavior that he didn't quite agree with, that maybe he would stop and think before he made those remarks about learning to discipline your children, that not all children are created the same, and some people are struggling, and that maybe that day in that restaurant meant more to them than just, you know, a 14-cent short stack. So for me, it's just really been about trying to turn that into something positive and use that to educate our community. So.
Well, I believe in education too, but I educate people a little bit differently than my darling wife here. I use, you know, I'll be upfront, is that when Isaac was first diagnosed with Asperger's, and I know this is wrong and bad, I was embarrassed. I was, you know, ashamed of that because I was young. I mean, I was 21, 22 years old, and it got to the stage where it turned from that and it turned into a badge of honor. You know, I might have many of shirts that has something to do with autism on it, and I wear those shirts out when I'm out in public. I mean, I have a tattoo of the puzzle pieces for autism, and I realize that my boys are made perfect. The world might not see that. I don't care if the world sees it. They're perfect to me, and I'm not going to be embarrassed of them ever. You know, ever again will I ever be embarrassed of any of my children. I've had different instances happening to me individually that Misty hasn't, and the funny thing is that all of her stuff happens with her, and all mine happens when we're never together. When it happens. So I'm gonna tell you two quick stories. Well, three. There was
you need to just keep it to one.
No, it's three, and it's very quick. One lady at church kept turning around because not our current church, but they kept turning around, looking because, you know, my son was making noises. Well, I can't control him from making noises. He liked to hum. That was one of his big things. So this one person kept turning around, and I stared right at her, and I said, turn right back around. It was around Christmas time. I was doing Christmas shopping, and as we said before, Eli likes to get in front of mirrors and run, so I allow him to do that while I'm in the store, but I'm right there next to him while he's doing it. So I heard this couple kind of snickering and saying stuff and looking over our way, and eventually I caught wind of what they were saying, and they said something on the lines, you know, some people just don't know how to raise their kids. Well, that set me off because, you know, for one, they don't know who I am, and two, they don't know my child. So I confronted them and said, you know, excuse me, what'd you say? And they kind of backed off and said, we didn't say anything. And I said, oh, you said something, so, you know, let's repeat what you said. They still wanted to repeat what they said, so I went on the offensive, and I said, you know, look, you don't know who I am, and you don't know my child, and how dare you come and try to tell me what to do with my child. Matter of fact, I'm not going to allow you to steal the joy of my son. My son has autism. He likes to get in front of the mirrors and run. And if that inconveniences you, then oh well. I'm not going to apologize to you for it, because he has every right to be in front of that mirror as any other person does. And then they kind of was backing off and walking away, and I continued to walk with them and tell them what I thought about their misjudgment of autism.
I do not advocate following people.
Well, just as Misty said, the guy at IHOP will probably remember that. I know these people will remember that.
They will remember.
Because when you have a tattooed person with an autism shirt following you, advocating autism in a very loud manner, in a very direct manner.
Direct.
But I didn't go overboard, because there's people applauding me when I came back and we was finishing looking at stuff for Christmas.
Nice.
Like Misty said, there's different ways to handle every situation. Do I think there's a time for sweetness and educating in that way? Absolutely. And do I think there's times to be direct? Yes, because there's a great line in a movie, and Misty doesn't know what movie I'm going to say.
I'm scared.
There is a quote that says, sometimes there are people that just want to watch the world burn, and that came from Batman. And that is true. There's some people that are just jerks, and they're just going to be jerks. Well, sometimes you can educate jerks, and sometimes you have to be direct with jerks. I don't like bullies, never have, and I never will. So I'm definitely not going to allow you to come after my kid in that way. So, like I said, there's different ways to handle it. Maybe I don't handle it the right way, but that's my child. I love him, and I'm proud of him. I'm not ashamed of him, and I'll educate my own way. So.
Very good. So, thank you for being truthful and candid. Again, like we said in the beginning, we are not recommending that you take any of this as advice or.
And my advice, take it.
Well, no, we are not saying that. We're just simply trying to give you an insight into our experience. Our experience isn't going to look like yours. Our family doesn't look like yours. But I think it's important, just as parents, to be able to sit down and say, look, I know what you're going through. I've been there. And these are questions and these are things that you're not going to be able to ask at, the typical mom's day out or at the park or whatever. If you have the opportunity to, encourage each other and offer your own life experiences, I think that's just an awesome way to support each other. So that's our hope with this series, is just to really say, hey, you're not alone. We've been there. We're still there. We're still going through it. I hope that we can have other guests to help.
That means she doesn't want me back, because
I do want you back.
I speak too directly.
No.
It makes her nervous.
I think you were awesome. But, different types of parents. I mean, I'd love for us to hear from a single parent, because they're going to face situations that we don't know about. I mean, we have each other. Doing this thing alone, that's a whole different ball game. And so, I want to hear from someone like that, because, and I've got somebody that said that she would come and talk with us, which I can't wait, because there are a large majority of you guys out there that are doing this by yourself. And so you're going to, of course, have different questions and different experiences than what we would have. But I thank you for joining me today. Mm-hmm. You have been a delight, sir.
Thank you.
And I cannot.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I cannot wait to have you back and to edit this so that it will be much more pleasing to the ear.
I'm better unfiltered. I am.
I'm scared of you unfiltered. Maybe we'll do a video called Philip Unfiltered. Do you think?
Yeah. I don't think the world's ready for that.
I don't think they're ready. But anyway, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Bye. Nice job. Please still be filming. Open communication about your children is important. Are you serious?
It came up. I can stop that. So you cut it off while I was talking. So we'll go back to.
Okay. So you've got to stop. You've made me lose my thought.